Hey folks, and welcome back to Pattaya. So it's the last day of the year, so Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks for a great year. I'll toast my coconut to you. I did over 200 videos this year, and I just went through all of them. Wow, and some of the stuff I forgot we did. Quite a year. Although I don't have to tell anybody it's been a bad year in terms of everything going on, but after looking back at everything, didn't look all that bad. Plus, I think I easily exceeded my channel goals for the year. So it's been a pretty good year for us. We got a lovely new place to live, but I thought we'd take a look back at the year, just some of the highlights. And believe me, it was difficult. It was difficult picking out the highlights. I had to pick out the things that I felt most passionately about. But there's a few things there, so we'll go through month to month and take a quick look at that. And then I'll tell you what's coming up for 2022. Oh, almost forgot. And one favor, while you're watching, let me know whether it's one I feature or not in the highlight reel. Let me know what your favorite episode of the year was. I'd appreciate that. So let's go back to January 1 year ago.
The year opened up with a whole new line of closures and restrictions, and we were kind of relegated to staying around home. I remember not being able to travel, so we went as far as we could, which was Na Jom Tien. We went down to a beautiful, it's a condo, but it actually felt more like a villa with a little pool and great view, stunning place, lavishly furnished. We really enjoyed that. It was very memorable. I remember taking the girls for a crab feast, a seafood feast really, down in Nak Lua at the seafood market. I brought my own seasoning from back home, Old Bay from Maryland, and they did it up right. The girls really enjoyed it. There was seafood to be had by all. But I guess one of the highlights of January was chartering our very own fishing boat. And we had the whole day, and we fished in the morning time and sailed around. But then we went out kind of on the side of Koh Lan, and there was some beautiful clear water swimming holes, and we took advantage of that, and we had a great time out there, and then we called it a day. So I guess the other thing we did in January, it did give me some time. I had to get the bike ready for our season of travel. I got some new tires, luggage, a tune-up. Of course, we got it all cleaned and washed, and then we were ready to hit the road. A few prior engagements notwithstanding, we had one of the most memorable evenings of the year at an exclusive cafe in Nak Lua with a former beauty pageant winner right here from Korat, Thailand. She was wonderful. Her cafe was wonderful. The staff, top notch, and the food was excellent. So that definitely stuck in our memories for the year. As did this jungle cafe out on the dark side. You know, it's right in Pattaya, but it feels like it could be a rural village somewhere. There was elephants and a winding river around the place. There was critters. They put on a show at some point in the afternoon. It felt around 4 or 5 o'clock, and that was a nice bit of entertainment to have, and we thoroughly enjoyed that, and turned out to be very memorable. So February definitely ushered in the official start of our travel season, and our first trip's destination was the mountains of Phetchabun, Khao Ko to be specific. We made a couple stops on the way there, one of which in Ayutthaya, a nice evening riverboat cruise we enjoyed there. But the main goal of the trip was to get up to those mountains, and wow, I remember waking up there at temperatures of 10 degrees. I could almost see my breath. I remember having breakfast brought to my room. It was too cold to go up to the patio at the resort and eat. Some beautiful temples. As we meandered back down south, we stopped at Phitsanulok. We had a great evening there at a nice restaurant with live music, and that was kind of a sight for sore eyes at the time. So they were doing it up right there, and we enjoyed that. Stopped off in Suphanburi and finally ended up at what actually turned out to be the highlight of the trip, which was Kanchanaburi, a floating river resort. And boy, did we have a time there. I remember also there was a cave just down the road from the resort. First time I had been in a cave of that nature.
And we came in here, and it's hard to breathe because of the humidity. There's a certain musky, damp smell to it. But in case you're wondering, 100 for V, 300 for me. I think it was worth it coming in here. I've never been in a cave this big. And we got a private guide. Nobody else on the tour but us.
But the resort was wonderful. One of our best nights ever. Expensive. I think about 3,800 baht for that. But just great food, everything you need there. Right there, basically on the Burmese border almost. And highly recommended, highly recommended. And I tell you, even though February is the shortest month of the year, it was one of our busiest. We also, when we got back, chartered a boat, a private speedboat out to Koh Pai. Koh Pai, just a very natural small island, not far from Pattaya, about 40-45 minutes. And just spent a day out there on the beach and exploring a little bit of the island. But wow, what a day. And turned out to be one of the most memorable parts of the year for me. I don't know if we'll ever go back there, though. It seemed like there was a lot of nothing out there, but I'd be lying if I said we didn't enjoy it thoroughly. So we ushered in the month of March with a stay at the Centaur Mirage Resort up in Wongamat. Beautiful place. I did lose my GoPro on the trip, though. It fell victim to me falling into the pool. But anyway, that was a catalyst of getting a new one, and I'm grateful I got the new one. It actually turned out to be much better. So sometimes bad things happen for a good reason. We also snuck off to Bangkok about that time, went to the auto and motorcycle auction there. That was an eye-opener. I kind of figured I'd be trying and at least looking at buying a vehicle this year, and it was part of the way I gauge the prices is by following along what's going on at the auctions to kind of put my thumb on the pulse of the resale vehicle market here. After our day at the auction, I remember going off to a resort, just a condo kind of north of Bangkok, and we spent the evening at a drift go-kart cafe, and that was a good time. It was definitely one of those things that looked easier to do than it was. I got the hang of it. It took me about 5 minutes, but I got the hang of it and was able to hold my own against the competition on the track. Around that time, the cannabis craze also started, where the new cannabis cafes opened up, started popping up everywhere. We went to one of the very first ones in Rayong. Now, I don't know that you can even swing a dead cat here without hitting one. They're everywhere. So it's turned out to be, well, I guess, a little bit more than a novelty. And who could forget Nisa, the bracelet girl? I tell you, I've talked to her subsequent to this, not that long ago. And she said, I wouldn't believe how many people had come up to her and wanted bracelets and said they saw her on YouTube. So she was very happy. Very nice girl. I'm glad that worked out for her. I think she got some business out of that. March was also the month I decided to conduct a little bit of an experiment. Some of my contemporaries talk about places they want to go and film, and they're all places you've heard of, like Chiang Mai and Phuket and Koh Samui. And I said, you know what? I probably could have just as much fun going to a place nobody ever heard of. And to prove that point, we took off on what I called the road to nowhere. Very rural Rayong, the agriculture part called Pluk Dang. And we spent a couple nights out there, and actually we found a good time no matter where we went. Had a great evening there at another restaurant with some live music. Daytime, I learned a lot about the local agriculture. We visited a pineapple farm. So there was good times to be had there, and really very few people have probably ever heard of that. And finally in March, it was a belated event. It was supposed to have happened months earlier, but the auto show, the Motor Expo in Bangkok finally happened, and I went there, and it was a good one. It was a good one. I made a good video, and I had a good time making it. April started off promising with a full house weekend trip to Koh Chang. That's right, we rented this villa. I forget how many of us, about 8 of us I think went. And huge villa, I think 5 bedrooms, its own pool. Just a great, big, fantastic place, and we had a nice weekend. The problem is when we returned to a shut-down Pattaya. They had made the announcement while we were actually on Koh Chang, and we returned to everything being closed. So I did go on a big bike tour group, though, back out to Kanchanaburi, to a different floating resort. Had a good time there. I'm not one to really ride with groups. I'm more of a solo rider, but once in a while it's okay. And this was a good bunch of guys, and we we had a good time out there on the road. April also brought V's birthday, and for her birthday, she wanted a scooter, and I think it's probably one of the better investments. It's actually come in handy. I even use it once in a while. I've been using it here the last couple of weeks while my bike's getting repaired. Not repaired, but redone. So it's good to have a little extra runabout, I guess, and she has been able to go to school with it. She's been able to run errands with it and do things normally she wouldn't have been able to do. So that's what she got for her birthday. She had a great birthday in April. So the month of May brought some travel along. We went up to Utai Thani to see V's mother. I'll never forget our night on the way up there at the Haiso Potato Resort. Turned out to actually be something like a short-time hotel, but very lavishly decorated. I got a kick out of it. I thought it was a good laugh. Her village turned out to be somewhere special, and I remember getting to the village and looking around and seeing a whole lot of just nothing. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place, but it just reminded me why I live where I live, and I gave this sermon.
But this is how it is. So I'll mind you, not a beer bar, pizzeria, hamburger, hot dog stand, billiard hall, darts, none of that.
No go-go?
None of that, let alone a go-go. No. None of that. None of those places you can go and socialize with your buddies. Get a burger, get a curry, get a whatever it is you want. A fish and chips on Friday, a pizza. Nothing. Probably an hour's drive at least to get anything like that.
I also got to try my hand at farming.
I'm farming.
On the way back north of Ayutthaya, we stopped at a lovely riverside resort where I got attacked by bees.
I got stung like 3 times in rapid succession. The side of my head and my shoulder. I was up that hill. I was up that bank in about 2 seconds in flip-flops.
But at the end of the day, the bee stings were minor, and we enjoyed another little evening boat cruise around town, and I saw some of the city at sunset. That was most memorable as well. I think everybody had a good time on that deal. When the month of June dawned upon us, we found ourselves on a ferry to Koh Samet. Although V found herself without her cell phone. She had forgotten to take her cell phone. Actually, it was a whole story behind that. But we had a great time out on Koh Samet. Stayed at a lovely resort right on the water, and a good time with nice food, good friends. We hired a little evening boat out there as well, right on the beach, and they took us out. We did a little fishing or looking around some of the smaller islands around Koh Samet. Koh Samet is like a national park, and there's a lot of nice scenery to be seen there. Turned out that V had not forgotten her cell phone. She took her cell phone, but accidentally discarded it with the garbage. Luckily, our maintenance, one of the cleaners, the maintenance people at the condo, retrieved it from the garbage because it happened to ring right while she was in the room. And she saved it for V, and when we got home, V was reunited with her phone once again. So I think lesson learned, and she got off kind of cheap on that deal. She didn't lose. There was a phone and a bunch of other stuff in the bag, so worked out well at the end. In July, it was time for a trip to Khao Yai National Park. We went around the entire park. We didn't linger in any one particular place, but we also took that opportunity to stay in what I think is one of the neater kind of special accommodations we've ever had. It was a luxury camping tent.
Oh, I gotta unzip this too. Wow. A lot of zipping and unzipping.
I mean, a camping tent complete with air conditioning and a bathtub and a shower, and it was basically a nice hotel suite wrapped in a canvas tent.
It's delicious. It tastes just like an oatmeal cookie with some raisins in it. It's like a little oatmeal cookie, but they're rectangular. Yeah. Good. I think I'll save the fruit for V, and I'll have the oatmeal cookies. She's back there in the bubble bath.
Khao Yai was a beautiful place. We saw so much at Khao Yai that we didn't have time to do. I did have a little slip and fall accident on the way. Nothing that prevented us from having a great time. I remember I did fall into a bit of a tourist trap, though, following some signs on the road. So it was supposed to have been a bullfrog farm, and turned out that was just the name of a resort that was actually closed. There was no bullfrogs and there was no farm. But it kind of reminded me of some of the misleading maybe overhyped signs I used to see on the U.S. interstates and motorways.
You never know what you're getting into with these things. Ah, I think this is it. There's the frog. So much for following those roadside signs here. I think the same thing happens in the U.S. You see signs for miles and miles along the interstates about something that sounds really cool, or some really cool restaurant or eatery, and you get there and it's just a couple Pop-Tarts and a glass of Tang.
As July turned into August, the desperation and despair in Pattaya had really, I think, reached its peak. Months, I mean, we were talking about since April, so April, May, and June. July, 3-4 months there, everything closed. Even restaurants at some point were closed, other than takeaway or delivery. And it really took its toll on the residents. The depression was rampant. We noticed this, and we did a couple things. We started to, I don't know, reach out and help out a little bit. I did a lot of things. Probably this year altogether, I don't know. Probably 50, 60,000 baht in charitable type community things. But we did a food handout on the beach. I think a lot of people did that. We fed the elephants. The elephants that normally get plenty of food to eat during tourist times, they were going without. I think probably one of the saddest ones was actually a quarantine village. That was actually up in the Khon Sawan, but the entire village was quarantined. They couldn't leave, and a lot of people just did not have the food stocks and the resources to feed themselves. So that was a big one. Either that or the silly dog outreach. We went one day, and the silly dog population has become more rampant during these times because they stopped the spaying and the neutering. So we paid for some of those and got them some food, but also an equally sad day. I think some of the things we did were a little happier. One of my favorites was probably renting out my own noodle stand. I think we gave away 100 bowls of noodles one day. It was nice, and I'll never forget the looks of gratitude and basically just thanks for all the things that we did that kind of helped people through some hard times and some dark days. But August and into September brought the floods. Now, the floods are a funny thing. You almost know they're going to happen. Rainy season is every year. The last couple have not been too severe, but I think they doubled down this year. But we were getting along pretty good. We were beating the floods. I'd have to get my bike cleaned up now and again, but I tried to sneak in some activities in between the different floods and rainstorms, and it almost for a while felt like we were beating the floods and the rainy season.
So it dried up, kind of.
But Mother Nature has a way of striking back, and I think she had the last word for sure. Yeah, definitely one of the low points of the year, waking up to a flooded garage and cars, motorbikes, everything on the underwater basically, and all the different actions that precipitated, and it was a challenging time. We got through it, as did most people. I think we're still waiting. Everybody's still waiting on some compensation for damaged vehicles and property, but we don't know if that'll ever happen. One of the more memorable parts of the year, not for a good reason. But we did manage to sneak in another trip to Bangkok, and we visited Khao San Road and a couple other places, Chinatown. But I think our most memorable part of that was having an evening, a meal in an old aircraft that had been repurposed into a restaurant.
All right.
Are you ready?
We are ready.
Let's go.
Oh!
A fine dining restaurant. We had a great meal there, and everything was so different. Even the food, it was kind of a once in a lifetime type type event. So highly memorable and definitely one of the highlights of our year. I guess on the other side of the fine dining coin, it would just be simple dining like this, but sometimes they can be just as memorable as well. It just depends on the nature of the place and the staff and of course the food. But this one, V still remarks about this. She always wants to go back. She says this is the best salad she's ever had. Price-wise, very fair, and the owner there is she's almost like a showman herself. So it's a little bit of a show, and it's a great fun place to eat, and it's beautiful scenery, and of course good food. So October turned out to be a little bit of a busy month. Our house search came to an end. We selected a new house, and then it was a process of them doing renovations in there. So it was a constant checkup on that and getting ready to move. But there was still some other things to do while we did that, and we did manage to go away for a couple days down to Koh Si Chang, one of my favorite islands. Just a very relaxed island. There's not a lot there to do recreation wise. It's just a nice place to chill out, and it's close by and convenient. And it was disappointing on our visit there to see the best beach on the island, really the only real tourist beach of the island, decimated from lack of tourists in the rainy season. I hope that'll be repaired, and we somehow though still managed to eke out a good time there, and we had a beautiful not a villa but an extra large hotel room type thing right on the water, and we had a great evening and a good trip overall. As November wore to an end, I finally, after many months of waiting, got to go on the new Seahorse ferry. That was definitely a memorable experience and a highlight of the year for me. A 19-hour trip down to Songkhla on the high seas. We had several hours to ride around and explore Songkhla down there, and then it was another 19-hour trip back. But I still get a lot of people ask me about that. Seems like there is a lot of interest in that. It is a good way to get from the Pattaya area, Sattahip, Rayong, wherever, down to southern Thailand, and I hope it works out. The truth of the matter is that trip was only 3 days, but it couldn't have been any longer because it was time for us to move. Moving day came up at the end of November, and that kind of brings us into December, where we are now.
So yeah, I told you in the last episode there'd be some changes coming up, and we're getting ready to go on a trip. So the truck's packed. The bike that I took up to Nakhon Sawan is finished. It's been finished for several days. I'll show you some pictures of it. I've not seen it in person. You're only seeing the same thing I've seen. But I think it looks good. I think they did a good job. So we'll go up to Nakhon Sawan. We'll throw the bike in the back of the truck and then continue heading north. We have a full agenda, a full trip planned. Places I want to go, people I want to meet, things I want to do and experience. We'll be gone for probably 3 to 4 weeks, somewhere in there. It just depends. I left some slack in the schedule. But we're going as far north as you can possibly go in Thailand, all the way up to the Burmese border, and then trickling back down south. We're going to cover a lot of ground. I'm going to do a lot of it in the truck, but I'll also be riding as well when we get to locations. But anyway, what does that mean for you and the channel and the changes and the updates? There will be no videos in January. Or maybe the end. I'm not sure what the date will be when they resume, but I'm not going to upload while we're on the trip. You see, the upload schedule I currently have been keeping is preventing me from doing some of the things I want to do, because some of the things I want to do take several days to do, and the production schedule I have is basically a video every other day. So we're going to take the month of January off. You could call it taking it off, but we're not. We'll be filming. So there'll be things being done in the background. And then at the end of January, early February, we will start production again. And the goal is I've got so many things kind of built up in my head, things I've been wanting to do, things I feel I need to do, things I want to see. And I just want to shift gears a little bit and go do those things without having to worry about missing an upload date. So we'll kind of iron some of that out here and flush that out in the month of January. And then hopefully going forward, toward the end of January, we'll resume a normal upload schedule, albeit it may be a different schedule. It might be different days, might be different quantities per week. I haven't decided that yet, but we will start the things we do tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 1st. We actually have a 12 noon meeting with a very interesting guy. A very interesting guy up in Lopburi. So all of this will come out as you're watching this episode. We're already on the road, but I want to thank you all for a great year. We had a fantastic year, and I'm hopeful that 2022 will be better than 2021. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.